Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Hope and the Truth. I am your host, Lance Parvin, and as always, we're here to renew hope, strengthen our faith in the Lord. With me today, I have the amazing Brittany Williams. How are you? Thank you so much for coming by.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. You are quite a dynamic individual. So I'm just going to list the basic thing, and then we'll get into detail of all of your background. Pageant competitor and title holder, fitness competitor, pro card holder, charitable entrepreneur. That's a lot of stuff. So let's break this down piece by piece. So we're going to go through each thing, not to brag, just to kind of give a background of your experience. So number one, pageant competitor. Why don't you give kind of the audience a background of what titles you've held?
Oh boy, let's see. I started, it was about 10 years ago now, to the pageant world. Wasn't successful in the very beginning, but after a couple of years, I ended up winning the Miss United States pageant. And I wasn't done. I just got that whole urge to get back on the stage a little bit later, so I competed for a few other titles. I've done the international pageant, so the Nevada international title. Went back to compete in the Nevada United States pageant, which it's a long story how all these different pageants and the Ms. team, that whole thing, that's a whole nother show. But the Galaxy system as well, and now I'm actually a part of the Earth United States organization, so I'm directing that. I'm trying to pass the torch on to the next generation.
We're going to get into that.
Yes.
What actually got you started in the pageant scene? What was kind of your inspiration to start that?
My inspiration was that it was totally opposite of anything that I've ever done in the past. I was very much into sports, and I wasn't a very girly girl. I was not a dress-wearing, makeup kind of girl, so it was just that kind of being just something new type of thing when I was in college, actually. So I wasn't even like a kid doing it. I was kind of a little old to get started, but I did it anyway. And at the same time, it was just kind of a self-esteem thing for me. It was something I kind of experienced growing up, just not really feeling very good about myself. So I thought going into the pageant world and, having that crown and the makeup and stuff was going to kind of help how I felt about myself. Another long story. Didn't really work in the beginning, but, come full circle, and we're good now.
I like all the long stories.
There's always a story. You
So
can be here
we're going to get back to the pageant stuff. So this I find very interesting. You transition. Now this is rare as far as I know. You transition into the fitness competition world. Now why don't you give people a background on what titles you've held, including a pro card in the fitness world? Because they're very different. So.
A little different, just a little different. So I'm a Fitness Universe pro competitor, so I compete in bikini and sports model divisions, and then I won after Fitness Universe. I went to India. Long story, imagine that. And I competed and won the Muscle India competition. Placed pretty okay in some of the others in Fitness America and some of the other competitions within the Fitness Universe umbrella.
Why the change? I mean, it's people think pageants are pageant, but they're not. It's not the same thing. Why the change from what most people consider pageants into a fitness realm, which are very different? Just the qualifications, rules, everything involved. What made you kind of make that switch?
It was more natural for me to be in fitness to begin with. Like I said, I was in sports and in the gym before the pageant world came, so it was almost like that's where I was supposed to have been all along, but I just detoured and did the other thing. But it connected because while they are very different types of competitions and type of world, there was some similarity. Being on stage, the whole preparation, having that goal, having to really focus on moving forward and kind of getting there. I don't know, there's something weird about it that I just love to, put myself through all these things. But when you're on the stage and you're actually there and you remember how long it's taken you to get there and all the work, like I've done something, I've accomplished something, I've sacrificed, and I'm here. So regardless of what happens, of course you want to win, but you still feel like you're really done.
Well, it's interesting because now you're extremely well-rounded. What are some of the misconceptions, just that you've experienced, you can't really assume what other people think, but that you've experienced between both realms, not just in the fitness, but also in the pageant world, because of having competed and winning in both?
Oh boy, there's lots of misconceptions. I think a lot of people assume in pageants that people are very superficial. There are very many people that are superficial in the world, trust me, but there are lots of women who like to compete, like to use that platform for a bigger purpose, for something good, whether it's to start their business, to do a lot of charity work, or just to kind of, like I said, try to get up there and do something that's very different. Really kind of opens your eyes to like a whole different world. So you can't just assume that every pageant girl is not intelligent or just kind of all about herself, because a lot of the pageants do offer scholarship money. So it is a way that a lot of girls have been able to go further with their education and not have all those student loans and debt and everything like that. So that's, I think, one of the major things. Another one is that actually a lot of us are friends. Some of my closest friends are actually girls I met from pageants. So
I'm sure that surprises a lot of
it
people.
does.
Because it's backstage
Yeah.
cat fights. And
I mean,
all
I've
this
seen
crazy
some stuff backstage, and I've heard stuff, but you figure out, you know who to stay away from.
Yeah.
Who's cool, and I just try not to just separate myself from in any place. Separate myself from the people that are not quite.
I got it. Now, I know most people know you for those two scenes. The thing that I like is, I mentioned in the title that you're a charitable entrepreneur. What I mean by that is you invest in helping humanity. Rather than building businesses, you're actually investing in helping people. So why don't you mention the charity that you're a part of, and then some of the charity work that you've done both locally and internationally. I think that surprises a lot of people. They find that out. So.
Well, the main one that I do work with is Vegas Youth Ambassador. So that's something that a friend of mine, when I was working in the hotel world, I think it's been like 8 years, we started just doing little things involving our people from work at spa at Caesars, and we would just get people to get involved in the community stuff, and it actually just grew into something bigger. And it was all her idea. She's like, let's do a nonprofit. So she was like, she just went for it and put it all together. And it's grown from just adopting families for Christmas and things like that to doing kinds of things all the time with people from, I don't work there anymore, so it's expanded a lot. We do lots of stuff. Feeding the homeless, we put on educational seminars, deal with human trafficking, just educating young women and young men and parents of some of the risk factors, things to keep your eye out for, drugs, alcohol. So that's locally. We do lots of those. There's a variety. We just work with lots of nonprofits.
There's a lot of stuff to cover.
There's a lot of work, and a lot of times with a lot of charities, especially the bigger ones, it's kind of difficult to. People don't want to work together. To us, it's kind of like, but we're trying to help people. Like, why can't we just help people? Why's it got to be like a competition?
Well, I think some people might view it as a conflict of interest, which I never understood, because if you're helping, even if it's the same demographic, people bring something different to the table to kind of help expand that out. And I tend to agree with you that a lot of times when you'll approach a bigger, more well-known organization, it's hard to get your foot in the door. So a lot of times I find that smaller and mid-level charities will bind together and actually create a dramatic change. Because again, helping one person, that's a change. Now internationally, you've done some stuff too. This is pretty amazing. What's some of the stuff that you've done and where have you gone?
Well, we, with the Vegas Youth Ambassador, so we really get the youth involved in charity, get them to understand, we live in Las Vegas, and even though you might have some issues here, it's nothing compared to other people elsewhere. And it was good for us as adults, we know that, but then to see it kind of takes you back a little bit. So also working with youth, it's a crazy eye-opener, transitional period for them. So we've gone twice already. We're planning our third trip to Sri Lanka and work with Bridge Road Orphanage there, and then also branch out to different communities around where the orphanages that area, and work within the orphanage. We do disability awareness and compassion, because over in a country like that, there's no American Disabilities Act there. There's no, the mindset of people with disabilities, it's very different. So we work with a lot with that, because one of our board members is in a wheelchair. So they see the struggle that he has to deal with, but he still moves forward, he still does things, so it kind of
It's a relatable thing. I think that makes a difference, and that's when people can empathize, when they can relate. And it is different. I spent time in Cambodia for a while, and it is a completely different mindset. And you tend to only complain when you have excess. You stop complaining when you start to say, like, wait a minute, I'm grateful and thankful every day because, and really to give this experience to youth, you get a much more broader view of what's happening in the world. Not what you're told, forget that, but you actually get to see it firsthand and experience it. So I think that's amazing. Number one, being any age, being able to travel and help, assist, not just here but overseas, and provide any kind of assistance for people who are like, well, that's unbelievable. Next question. How has your faith in Jesus affected your life? I mean, you've done so many different things, and because of the fields that you're in, I think it would surprise people, because some people are, oh, I do this and that, but I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it. That's what makes a difference.
I keep trying every day. And it's something that I grew up, here from the South, very kind of conservative, very church-based, the whole family is. So I always grew up with that. Then I come to Las Vegas. It's a little different out here. So I think I had to really always be aware because, when you're in a different environment, you can easily kind of, change a little bit based upon what you're surrounded by. So I think I've always just stayed really close to how I grew up, my family, just trying to just experience, what's out there, but kind of keeping in the back of your mind, like, okay, what's really important, what are we here for, those types of things. And I've done, a few things here and there, different competitions or, whatever, and that's nice, it's fun, but so at the end of the day, it's like just a thing that you do, there's opportunities that come with it that are nice, but I don't know, there's just still a bigger
You're able to measure importance. Well, I mean, and you've been able to compare both, actually, having competed and seeing the world. You can kind of say, well, wait a minute, I've done both. I can see what's kind of having more of an impact on humanity and how I actually helping. You're doing a lot of stuff currently, though, a lot of stuff you've done. So currently you are coaching and consulting. So I'll let you explain this, what that entails, and how people number one get a hold of you. I don't know if I give out your number, you'll be getting like marriage proposals. Are you kidding me? Marriage proposals will be coming in. So why don't you talk about the coaching and consulting and how you're helping how people can get a hold of you with that?
Well, I've just started doing more coaching for pageants. It is a passion of mine. Like I said before, I've kind of had a love-hate relationship with it. There's so many great things about pageantry that I've learned, but there's some things that I understand where some people have issues with it, get both sides of it. But I just tend to take the good stuff out of it that I've experienced and really want to help people understand the good part and how it can really develop, especially like a young woman, especially in the world that we're in right now out here. Like, oh, I don't know what direction I'm supposed to go because whoever on TV, reality star says this is how it's supposed to be, but I don't know if that's really the right thing. So it's kind of helping girls kind of do that, figure out how to just be the best them that they can be in a world that tells them they should be something else.
That's good. That's a way of coaching someone.
Yeah, I kind of have a different approach to it. I know a lot of people that coach for pageants, they're just like, okay, this is the answer to the question, this is how you do this is exactly how it's supposed to be done. But trust me, when I started this stuff, I had no idea what I was doing, and I kind of figured it out for myself. So I think it's important just like to still be yourself and bring out what you have in whatever it is that you're doing and not try to imitate.
Well, I think your unorthodox approach is why you keep winning. I mean, that's what you can't argue with a track record. And the other thing that you're doing besides coaching and consulting, kind of listed out before, was that they actually you're going to be directing a pageant, which I figured, look at that experience, that might actually help. So why don't you talk about the pageant if you can, because I know you're in kind of the final negotiations with that.
Yeah, we are.
What can you tell us about being a director?
Oh gosh, this has been a long time coming. I was trying not to do it, and then they kept on, and I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm supposed to be doing this because it just doesn't go away. So I just accepted that this is where I am. So the Miss Earth United States pageant is a little bigger organization that I work with. It's an international pageant. We actually have our U.S. title holder going to Miss Earth Philippines next month. So she's going to a really actually directing for the state
Gotcha.
of Nevada. So it's a preliminary to go to Miss Earth United States, or it's a preliminary to go to Miss Earth, the international pageant. And like I said, there's so many different types of pageants. Everybody has different purpose and everything. But this one really kind of connected with me, just because I like, there's the glitz and the glamour of the pageant world, but it's earth. And what I mean by that, the platform, a lot of it has to do with the environmental awareness and things like that. And one of the competitions actually that they have to do internationally is a no makeup. Like they have to actually not wear makeup or stuff. And I thought that was kind of interesting because as much as I like getting cute and everything, there's still this part of like, well, you are who you are. You know, getting dressed up is one thing, but still being okay with being natural and just, you know, put out on this earth is very important too. And that's one of the parts of the pageant world that sometimes kind of is a little tricky for me because sometimes it does send kind of a mixed message. I think it's important to just embrace yourself as you are.
Well, that's why I think it's great that you'll be directing, because you can break some of the misconceptions that you've seen into actually having some control and actually helping these women start to see. Maybe we can focus on this and focus on this, and I think you bring a lot to the pageant world that'll change people's view of it. I'm sure
That's
you will.
part of the goal.
How can people get a hold of you? Email, I guess, is the best way.
Yes. Well, as far as the pageant is concerned, that email is Brittany at missearthunitedstates.com. Brittany. I spell my name the correct, proper way.
We'll link that so people can see it if you didn't get that, and then how else we're coaching and consulting.
And then for everything else, it's my normal email is only one, it would be 13 at gmail.com.
Listen, we all have names. Mine's my name. All right, that's fancy. We're going to be right back. Give us a few minutes. If you don't mind staying, we're going to go over the news you might not have heard about. We'll be right back in a few. Welcome back to Hope and the Truth. I'm Lance Marvin, and with me is Brittany Williams. Thank you again for coming by today. So this is a part of the show I like to call News You Might Not Have Heard of. Now the guests don't know the topic. Actually, no one knows the topic that I picked this week, but I do have a lot of interesting stuff for you. So if you don't mind coming with me to Strange Land for a little bit, because I can go a little off the rails sometimes. Bear with me. So the article that we found this week, and some of you might have been hearing conjecture online, a lot of alternative media sources stating that the end of this month, September 30th, October 1st, the internet is going to be governed by a new source, supposedly the United Nations. Now, I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to get into is an actual interesting story. This was out of fortune.com. You can also, it was by Reuters magazine, and we will post the links as always. The title of the article, this is from September 13th, 2016. Facebook, Twitter join network to tackle fake news. Fake news. Now, what this organization's called is the First Draft Coalition. Many of you were probably asking, well, I've never heard of that, which is interesting because they were formed back in 2015 of last year, June. What the premise of this organization is to tackle fake news. A quote from the article, they want to improve the quality of information on social media, the group said. So I have a question with this. There's news, meaning we all kind of inject our opinion into something, but how can someone say, well, wait a minute, is it your perception or are you kind of skewing the news? I'm just going to tell you some of the organizations that are going to be part of this movement that have signed on so far. There's 30. We have Facebook, Twitter, CNN, BuzzFeed, YouTube, New York Times, and the Washington Post. Now, many people would say that news in the press, print media, and television media has been skewed because a lot of the conglomerates have condensed it, and you have a few companies that run all of these organizations. So personally, to me, the internet is one of the final frontiers where you can get differing of opinions. I'm not talking about crazy stories, but I still want to hear the crazy stories because we can critically think. We can form our own opinions. So to give someone that access to information rather than have a governing body, in this case the First Draft Coalition, that I didn't elect, nor was I told about, that's going to go there and filter stories. Now, all the organizations that I just read through, they're agreeing to this, meaning you're having a third party go through and filter what they think is a correct story. So first, I know that's like, what? What are your opinions on that? Meaning that when you go on, let's say, and I can give you an example. Let's say you go on Facebook, okay, and you're out and about, and you film something, and you're breaking a news story. I'll make it even better for you. Last week, when I don't know if you saw this video at the 9/11 memorial, Hillary Clinton had a bit of an episode. Let's just call it an episode. Now, what most people don't know, you've seen the video. What you didn't know is mainstream media was corralled during that event. The reason you saw that video is because bystanders shot it. And then they put it out there, which forced mainstream to then play it. Now, I don't consider that fake news. I consider that something, well, it's like, all right, we're getting a bigger picture of the story. But this is not the change. Let's say you film something, and you go to upload it, and it's blocked. I'm not saying there's not fake stories out there, but I'm saying your perception of something that's happening when you give your opinion. That would be freedom of speech and freedom of the press. So with something like this, I'll just get a quick opinion of you. You don't have to sit there and voice this. How do you feel, and what would you define as fake news? Do you think you need someone to police what's relevant to you?
Because there's a lot of weird stuff out there. Like, there's a lot of fake things. I think people are so into, like, Facebook and we get their news from there. I'll be honest with you. Because I've turned off I moved and I didn't turn on the cable, and a lot of times I'll just go on the internet and I'll read my information from there. But I think since I've done that, I always wonder, like, well, where is this going? Where's this coming from? Because anybody can go and put anything up there and say anything. But at the same time, I don't know. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has a perspective. So if you're the only putting out one perspective, how can we really figure out what really?
And I'm glad you brought that up about alternative media and the internet, because actually, this is one of the reasons this movement was started, if you haven't known. The general public, at least the people that I've talked to, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, have moved away from media on television, print media, because why? They don't trust them. They've started to get information from alternative media that can actually cite sources, back things up. So it's not some person in a bathtub saying, look what I saw, there's no proof. We're all entitled to an opinion. Now, I find this interesting, that some of the sources that have agreed to this, rather than saying, well, let's be honest, everyone's entitled to an opinion on the news, but give the news story and say, this is my belief. But rather than do that, let's just censor the other side. And this to me is very dangerous, because if you're starting with journalism and then you're starting with speech, what next? Faith? Well, that would just scare the honey nut off of your Cheerios. Imagine where that can actually go as time goes on. So I'll let that simmer for a bit. You can look into this. They have their own website. It is the First Draft Coalition. Okay? So first, I want to thank you for coming by. I had a great time. I want to also personally thank the Veterans Transitions Resource Center for allowing us to film here. And as always, invest in Jesus and stay close to the Lord. We'll see you next week. I'm Lance Barber.